Steve, great point last week, but it came at a cost with all the injuries. What's the latest?
Well, I think it's been reported, if I start with the goalkeeper, Harper looks as if he's tore a bicep, so he's going to be at least 2-3 weeks. Dawson's done his ankle ligaments, that's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. And of course Jelavic, who was operated on Wednesday in Croatia. And I suppose it's going to be the same for him, 4 to 6 weeks. His is a knee and a cartilage, or a meniscus, whatever you want to call it. So we've also got knocks to, or strain to, Tom Huddleston and Andy Robertson too, so they're a bit of a concern as well going into the game. So that's typical of what I've been saying for weeks to the squad of players, that we've been riding along very, very nicely and had no injuries, and then all of a sudden we've got 4 or 5, so there could be 4 or 5 changes tomorrow.
How big a blow is it, because some of these are key players?
Well, it's always a blow. I mean, we were dealt a horrible blow at the start of the season with Snodgrass. Obviously 20 minutes into his debut suffered a horrible knee injury, and that's the one thing that you need a bit of luck with, all of us, but it's inevitable that you do get injuries and suspensions along the way, and we simply have to cope with it. It's as simple as that. It's always a blow to lose your big players, but we'll have to get on with it and hope that the squad's big enough and strong enough to cope with it.
And goalkeeping wise, Steve Harper's injury when Alan McGregor's already out. Yeah. What's the latest on McGregor?
Well, it's still the same. I think he's 3 weeks into a 6 weeks rehabilitation programme. We're not going to rush him back, that's for sure, because if we rush him back and he's not quite right and he goes back to square one, then we're going to look ridiculous. So it's obviously a concern, because we've only got our third choice goalkeeper at the moment, which is Eldon, who's performed very well at the Emirates last week. So let's hope he continue that, and obviously a young kid on the bench.
Liverpool were given a lesson in midweek. What kind of reaction do you expect?
Well, the one thing about playing Liverpool, I mean, they've got an unbelievably unique support who stay with them. They're an unbelievable band of supporters who follow that club, and they'll make sure that, they'll want to get back on track. They played against one of the best teams and the champions of Europe on the night and found it difficult, like most teams do. So they'll be wanting to respond. So it's always sometimes a bit difficult when one of the big teams has got beaten and beaten badly. They'll want to go out and prove. So we've got to be ready for that, because they're quite capable of it, and they've had an awful result, but they'll want to bounce back from it. So you've got to be wary of that.
And Mario Balotelli has been making headlines all week. I guess you've got to be wary of him as well.
Well, I think it was a bit unfair on the lad. I think he's been maybe a mid part of the, there's always one where people pick on, and I suppose the changing of the strip and the way he is, but I thought he did okay in the game. The game we're asking, I thought he did okay, and there's lots been made of this changing of shirts, but we've seen it now for years, haven't we? It's not maybe in our DNA in the English league, but all abroad they all do it, and they think it's nothing. So I don't look into that. The fella's a good player, and we've got to be wary of all of them who play against us, because if you play for Liverpool, you're a good player.
He's got a point to prove at the moment, Balotelli.
Well, as I said, it's not for me to comment on other people's players, but from the outside, it seems to be he's the whipping boy at the moment, which is always a bit unfair. So, there's always a scapegoat, and he seems to be the one at the minute that the media are onto, and everybody else seems they're onto. But whenever I've seen him play, and I've seen him play the other night as well, he did okay for me.
Getting the point at the Emirates last week, do you think give the players any belief going to Anfield that they can?
Well, the disappointing thing for us is that we've now conceded, I think, 5 times in the last 2-3 minutes. We could have been sitting there quite pretty at the moment with the points on the board, so that's disappointing. But whenever you take on one of the big teams and you play well against them and you get a result, it gives you a bit of belief. But as I said this time last week, we have to play well, and we're going to make big changes tomorrow. because of the injuries. So it's a big opportunity for the lads who've coming into the squad. And the one thing again, when you go and play at Anfield, you have to play well. And let's hope we can do that like we did last week.
And Hernandez on the score sheet last week. Are you happy with the way that he's adjusted to English football?
Well, it's still going to take a bit of time. You know, he's done well in terms of goals, but I think he's finding it, the pace of the game, fast and furious. In his words, it's loco at the moment. There's a bit of Spanish for you, I don't know what that means, but you know, he's finding it, but he's adapting. He wants to learn. He's enjoying it, and of course, when you score the goal like he did last week, then as a striker, he's done particularly well. I think he's got 3 goals in his 5-6 games. So long may that continue.
Final one from me. Lamella, the goal last night. Did you see it? What did you?
I haven't seen it. I've heard the radio this morning. Unfortunately, I haven't seen it, but I'm looking forward to it. You hear it's something else. It's probably the best goal you're ever going to see, isn't it? But unfortunately, I didn't see it.
I'll see a couple from me. You mentioned the frustration at surrendering leads. You look at the table 11th, you'd be reasonably happy, but how much higher should you be in the table?
Well, I suppose all managers is probably looking and thinking, you know, we've lost 4 or 5 points, and what ifs and could have beens, and from my experience in the Barclays Premier League, that's the way it is. You know, how often do you see the big teams score against you late on? They do it. I mean, Arsenal did it in the week again. It's a frustration, a huge frustration, because I can't remember it happening so quite so often. Over, if it happens once, yes, you dust yourself down, but it's happened 4 or 5 times, in which has been a good start, a decent start, could have been a really, really terrific start, but it's a frustration which all of us are feeling at the moment, but we've just got to turn that round, and hopefully we can do it tomorrow.
You mentioned the goalkeeping situation. Have you got any room for manoeuvre in terms of perhaps getting a loan in?
No, I mean, hopefully Jakupovic, nothing happens to Jakupovic, but I think the rules state that it's really under difficult circumstances and extreme circumstances. So at the moment we've still got a young goalkeeper, and we're deciding which one's going to be on the bench tomorrow. And then, as I said, Jakupovic is our third choice, and let's hope that nothing happens to him. If something happened to him tomorrow, then I think it would be that would have to go to the Premier League and ask for a special case, because it's not just that you have to go outside the transfer window, but you've also named your 25-man squad too, which also causes a problem.
You had Jakupovic at Leyton Orient last year, where people that I know down there rated him very highly. How important was for him to get regular football?
Well, as I've said, I said all the time. Matty Fryer did the same. Figueroa's gone out the same. Sagbo's done the same. I think there comes a time when you don't play, and I think with Eldon in particular, he needed to go and play a run of games. He needed to get used to playing in England, because, no disrespect to playing in Greece or Switzerland where he was before, it's not quite the same. The physicality is not quite the same. He's a very, very capable goalkeeper. He played at Old Trafford last year. He seems to get thrown into the big ones. He played at Old Trafford last year and did very well. He done very well at the Emirates last Saturday. So he's an experienced goalkeeper, so we've got no problems. Let's just hope, though. We hope that nothing happens to him, of course.
You've got some thoughts. You've got to make some changes at the heart of defence as well, with Michael being out. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the one area where we are strong is that department. We know we have got, 3 or 4 choices where we could got, Alex and McShane and obviously Harry Maguire too. So I've got something in my mind, and I'm sure we'll be okay.
We'll see it 2 o'clock tomorrow, no doubt. What have you seen from the game at QPR and then against Real Madrid on the Liverpool side that gives you confidence you can get something out of this game?
Well, it's not just Liverpool, it's ourselves. I think the way we've gone about our work this season has made sure that we're really, really competitive. But make no mistake, and I said this last week, when you go and play against one of the bigger teams, and Liverpool are one of the giants of the game, and they've got some very, very good players going forward, we have to play well ourselves. Last week at the Emirates we played very, very well, and we were within 2 minutes of getting a huge result. we've got to do exactly the same tomorrow, is go there and play, take them on and play with that freedom which we showed last week.
A few of Liverpool signings maybe haven't bedded in the way that they would like, whereas here at Hull City you made a lot of signings which have hit the ground running. What have you done right?
Well, no disrespect to our club, but we're not Liverpool, and I think you're always mindful of the fact when you make huge changes that change is difficult at times, and maybe the changes that they've made, they haven't had the run of games which we've been able to give to our lads. You know, it's very difficult for any player, no matter how good you are, to play one game and then go out for 3-4 weeks and then play another one and then try and get up to match fitness, especially in the Premier League. It's very, very difficult. We're grateful that the lads who've come in here have all hit the ground running, and I think that's been vitally important to us. So there's no secret to it. It's just some do and some don't. I mean, we had a couple of years ago, we had a German striker, Nick Proschwitz, found it very, very difficult. Sometimes it happens, especially if they're if they're just coming into the country for the first time and playing in the Premier League. Some people find it very, very difficult to start with.
Is it a question of pressure as well, Steve, that there's more pressure on guys coming into the club?
Of course there's a pressure when you go to Liverpool. Big club, big expectation, high expectations, and of course, they've made changes because they lost Suarez, and of course Sturridge has been out for a couple of weeks as well, a few weeks now. So when you take them two out the team last year at Liverpool, they were the exceptional players, and Suarez in particular. If you're taking him out, how do you replace that lad? He was unbelievable last year, and rightly so, the player of the year. And to try and replace him has been very, very difficult.